Hey, welcome to a lesson about natural objects and their textures. I'm going to show you a few texture techniques to help you match the textures that you're seeing in your pictures, because my guess is some of you have a picture like this where you see something like this tree bark or a seashell or something, and it's freaking you out because it looks super hard to draw, and there's all these like little nooks and crannies and like rough edges and everything, and you might be like, how am I supposed to draw this and shade it in? Well, I'll show you. Okay, so for a rough texture that you might see on a piece of wood or bark or rocks, all you got to do is take your pencil and a very nervous, shaky hand and shade in and kind of pretend that you're very, very nervous. You can't control how your hand is going, and like sometimes you push harder on the pencil and sometimes it's lighter. Okay, and you'll start to get that rough kind of texture that. Okay, and it looks kind of funky and messy, but if we take back a look at that tree bark that we have, yeah, it does kind of match the roughness of it. Okay, now I'll move on to seashell texture, which can also be very, very intimidating to do. So let's take a look at seashell. Now it's made up of those little ridges, and if you notice, there's lots of lines. Okay, and so we have our ridges that puff up, and then we have like the areas in between. It's kind of like peaks and valleys. Like this is a peak, and this is a valley, and this is a peak, and this is a valley, and this is a peak, and that's a valley. And if you notice, the lines kind of puff up on the peaks and sink down on the valleys, and then they puff up on the peaks and sink down on the valleys. So that's pretty much what we have to do, and you can even see it in here too. Okay, so for a seashell texture, for those peaks, those ridges, you do like little curvy lines up that puff up. Yeah. Okay, and maybe there's like another puffy little ridge. Well, there's plenty of them on a seashell, so we show that puffiness of that ridge. And then between the ridges sink, there's those little valleys. Remember we said peaks and valleys, peaks and valleys. And so the little lines that you do underneath basically sink down. So puff up and sink down, and puff up and sink down. And then it'll start to look like the ridges of a seashell. See? Okay. The last thing that I wanted to show you was how to do some leaf veins. In case you have a picture like I do, where the veins of the leaf are kind of light. So for that, we're going to use our kneaded eraser. But first, I'm just going to pretend like I'm shading in a leaf. Okay, maybe I'll even smudge it a little bit. Here we go. Okay. And remember that the leaf veins, sometimes they appear a little lighter. Sometimes they're darker, but this, in my picture, they're lighter. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use my kneaded eraser to basically kind of cut out those lines by just sculpting it really, really thin. Okay, and then I can come in and I can even get thinner with this. Okay, and this will help. See, this will help me get the little veins in the leaf that I see. So that's another technique. So definitely try these out, and good luck. And they're pretty easy to do, not too bad.